What's up, guys? It's Josh with SobrietyWoD. Had to come inside today because it's windy as shit outside, and I'm not that good with the video camera yet. I'm learning, but I don't know how to like screen the sound and all that stuff. So it's a little bit more of an intimate setting today, but that's pretty cool actually, because this is a pretty intimate topic. What I wanted to discuss today, or what I wanted to talk about before our discussion, is the idea of higher power, the higher power concept. It's really neat. Like I like to make these like CrossFit associations with sobriety, and it's really not me making them. They all exist. Like it's nuts, but that's what this stuff is about anyway. And you know, a lot of people in recovery refer to the higher power concept or the guide concept as the HP. So you hear people talk about my HP, and it's funny because CrossFit defines fitness as horsepower. So we got higher power, horsepower, a little fun word stuff there, but really it's kind of like the same thing. So if your fitness is indicated by the amount of horsepower that you can put out, which is the amount of work that you can accomplish in a given time, you know, I like to think of my sobriety as my higher power output. Whatever I can, whenever I get myself out of the way, whenever I remove my ego and allow my higher power to act through me, the more work that is accomplished in my life by my higher power is indicative of the quality of my sobriety. And that's a pretty cool concept, I think. And if you make the association, you really can see how they go together. So there's a couple things that I wanted to really make sure we cover when we're talking about higher power. And I've had a few people who found out about this program and have their reservations about the side of the program that's spiritual. And I think it's important that we cover what we're talking about whenever we talk about spirituality or whenever we talk about higher power stuff, to take some of the mysticism out of it. All right. Bottom line is, shit's mystical. Like, that's the reality. So I mean, to completely remove it, I think is foolish. But to start with it, to lead with it, I think is foolish as well, before we have some type of solid ground to stand on, before we have something that we can discuss and that we know what we're talking about. So there's a couple videos we talk about, actually in my class yesterday, we were talking about how important it is that we define what we're talking about. You know, CrossFit started out with a definition of fitness, right? And that's absolutely essential for us to even have a discussion. And in my life, I've learned that a lot of people's arguments or disagreements are really based on miscommunication of concepts and terms. So people are quibbling over words and not really ideas. They're quibbling over the words they're using for the ideas. And I've been in multiple discussions with people, and at the end of the day realized that we're all just saying the same thing with different words. We just didn't agree on what we called it. So my goal here is to talk about what we're actually talking about and not to get you to use a certain word for it. So I really don't care what you call the thing we're about to talk about. I want to make sure that if you disagree with it or agree with it, it's the thing. It's not the word that somebody uses. For instance, if that's a little nebulous, somebody might call it God. You might say, I don't believe in God. I might describe what I mean by higher power, and you might say, well, I believe in that. Well, we could sit here and argue about the existence of God all day, and you don't even know, or I haven't told you that what I'm talking about is that thing within us that gets us to do more than we thought we were able to, and we're arguing for no reason. So it's important to me that you guys understand what we're talking about, what I'm talking about, so we can move forward with this stuff. So here's kind of the thing for me. When I was in my first treatment center, there was this big discussion and debate, and like most treatment centers and most people early in recovery, we have some issues with spirituality, especially religiosity and organized religion and stuff like that. So that's pretty much common. If you read the big book, there's a lot of it is about the agnostic and our issues with God. The reality is, a lot of our problem is a result of our issues with God, or our issues with anything more powerful than ourselves or anything out there that's above and beyond ourselves. And the reason is because a lot of the addiction issue revolves around the ego. Us activating the ego or living in the ego is essentially us putting ourselves in the place of God. It's us trying to control things and us trying to manipulate things and us trying really to care for ourselves the way that we are taught later we should be expecting the universe, the spiritual law, the divine thread, or God to take care of us. So we're trying to do a job that's not ours. We're trying to do a job that we're ill-equipped for, all right? So that's why they go together so well, is because it's kind of the cause, or it's part of the cause. I know there's other stuff. I'm not trying to start arguments and stuff, but this is from where I'm coming from, all right? If I have a spiritual malady, this is the beginning of my spiritual malady, all right? Is my issue with God. I took issue with God, I took issue with religion, and it's not to say that you can't maintain your issue with that stuff, but we have to be pretty clear on what we're talking about when I talk about your higher power. So with the debate on the spirituality and the idea of what is spiritual, and I don't believe in spirits and I don't believe in spirituality and all that kind of stuff that a lot of us come into recovery with, I started to realize that, okay, the book said I have a spiritual malady, and in recovery we're talking about a spiritual solution. Well, I had heard one time somebody refer to someone as being, like somebody depressed, as being in a bad spirit or being in down spirits. Or my mom used to say to my little sisters when we were growing up, do you have a happy spirit? Or you need to have a happy spirit, or whatever. So there was this association between spirit and mood. And I think that it's really important, because if we're talking, nobody doesn't believe in moods, right? Like, I've never heard anybody that's like, I just don't believe in moods. Like, whatever. We have moods, we're in moods. I'm in a good mood right now. You might be in a bad mood right now, but we know what we're talking about when we talk about a mood. It's like an overwhelming sensation. It's an emotional sensation. And, we are really emotional people. We tend to evaluate a thing's value by its ability to produce emotion inside of us. And so we're really connected to the whole mood issue, right? So thinking of that, if a spirit is a mood, if somebody's in good spirits, they're in a happy mood. If they're in down spirits, they're in a somber mood or a bad mood. Like, I can accept that. It was like, all right, so that's the first thing. Mood, spirit, same thing. All right, I can accept that if that's what we're talking about. So then I started thinking about the idea that the addiction issue arises around mood altering substances, right? We're talking about here mostly chemicals, but we talk about any kind of drug, a lot of prescription medication now. We talk about opiates. The opiates make us feel better. Yeah, they put us in a good mood when we're in a bad mood. Does alcohol make me feel better? Yes, that's why I do it. Does amphetamines make me feel better? Yes, that's why I do it. All these chemicals and substances that you can get addicted to are mood altering. And what that means is they have the power, the ability to take us from a mood that we are disagreeable with and put us into a mood that we prefer. So you've probably heard a lot of times how, our solution was a viable solution for a while, and it was. I mean, I started off drinking to get through the work day. I probably didn't start off, but ended up drinking to get through the work day, and it got me through the work day. That's a solution, right? Now, it wasn't a long-term solution, and it was a solution that was going to lead to death. It also was a temporary solution because it only got me through work for so long till it started inhibiting me from going to work. And the argument here, I'm not saying that drugs and all that stuff is not a solution. It's a damn good solution while it works. It just doesn't work that long. And then the more we're into it, the shorter that time period is. So here we got mood, spirituality, spiritual program, mood altering chemicals, mood altering substances. With codependency, we see mood altering relationships. We got food that makes us feel better. I mean, there's a reason people get sad and eat ice cream. Like, it's an effective transformer of our current emotional situation for a limited amount of time. So if I can get you this far, if you can say, yeah, okay, I have if I'm addicted or I want to use mood altering substances, then I must have a mood problem. And the big book tells us we have a spiritual malady. Okay, let's just interchange those words as necessary. Then I have a mood malady. So I have a sickness of the mood. For mood sickness, I take mood altering substances. I have a spiritual sickness, I take spirit altering substances. All right, so if I have a mood issue, mood malady, and I'm addicted to mood altering substances, then the whole idea of a spiritual program is just a program that addresses my mood. That's it, right? So we're not talking about angels and demons flying around and attacking people and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine too, like if you believe that is not an issue. I'm just saying that don't let the spirituality side of things keep you from this, because it can be as mystical and far-fetched as you want it to be, or it can be as down to earth as you need it to be, and you're free to do whatever you want to do with it. I'm just trying to put this on a level that we can start with, and I think that, or I haven't met anybody who I've given this discussion to who's disagreed with it. So going along those lines, it's a little bit easier to take that step down this road, to look at this program as like something that might be effective for me. And so I want to get into the higher power issue, which is sort of another step in that spiritual direction, or that mood direction. But in order to make that step, I wanted to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. It's kind of the same deal with the higher power. Okay, so I don't think it's necessary to believe that there's this external being that is manipulating every occurrence that happens in our existence. So one of the beautiful things about AA and the 12 steps and the NA and recovery programs is that they allow me to kind of make that progress in that direction on my own. That all I had to start off with was this belief that there was something out there that was more powerful than my own self-will, you know. Well, it's pretty obvious to me that there is, okay? So by the time I got laid in my addiction, I was so absolutely incapable, you know. My life had become unmanageable. I couldn't do the simplest things. I couldn't get myself to brush my teeth. Like, my life was just a continual breakdown of less and less power and ability. So for me, it wasn't that difficult to look around and say that there's stuff that's stronger than me, you know. And a lot of us start with the group, the AA group, as a source of power, because I really think that's a great place to start, because when I see a collection of individuals who are accomplishing something that I'm incapable of accomplishing on my own, it's pretty easy for me to say that that's more powerful than me, you know, and that I can have access to that power if I accept it, if I open up to it. And so what I try to do with higher power, to get people to open up to the idea of the existence of this higher power, I think of it as a resource that can be tapped into to give me strength that I need to do stuff that I have heretofore been incapable of accomplishing on my own. All right, so I couldn't stop drinking. I couldn't change my life. I couldn't stop stealing, lying, cheating. I couldn't stop being self-centered. I couldn't stop eating. I couldn't stop sexual or like lustful stuff. I had no power to stop any of it. I was so bad off and so out of control and unmanageable that I literally was powerless over those things. There were times in my life though that I did have power over those things. And so I started to really think about, what is this? What are we talking about? I wasn't completely incapable because I had done it before. I was incapable at the time and I didn't know what the reason for that was. So I started to think about things that helped me along the way to become able to resist those things, to become able to start telling the truth, to become able to be honest, to become able to stop wanting to eat everything, and to start exercising, and to start saving money, and to start having a relationship, and to start being a good contributor to society. Like, I don't have that power. Like, I know what I do. If you leave me alone, I'm getting a case of beer, and I'm just gonna ride this thing out as long as it lasts, you know. That's a lot of our stories. So what were some things that enabled me to make those changes? And, you know, I got sober in a group home. So the idea of the group being a powerful agent in my transformation is easy for me to accept. And I also have a military background, you know, being in combat, being in boot camp, being able to do and complete tasks that I would have been unable to do it just because my brother was depending on me or the group was depending on me. I've also been on athletic teams, which you may be able to relate with some of this stuff, or just being in a family, or having some buddies that got in a fight or whatever. It's like we were more powerful together than I was alone. So that really wasn't hard for me. And to know that the more that I clung to the support and the power of that group, that positive peer pressure, the more capable I became of doing things that I am not capable of on my own. All right. Now, when we get into individual and personal higher power stuff, we just take that to the next level. And so today, what I would like you to do is to think about a time in your life where, you know, maybe you got in a situation you didn't think you could handle. It could be a physical thing. It could be an emotional thing. It could be barely graduating high school, like me. It could be thinking, you know, maybe you've been in jail and you didn't think there was any way you were going to survive it, and you made it out. Like, maybe you've OD'd, or maybe you've been in some pretty tragic, like, accident or something like that, and you didn't think that you could possibly pull through, and somehow you did, you know. There's a time in your life where you surprised yourself. Oh, I didn't even mean to do this, but this shirt says impress yourself, and it's one of our gym mottos, and the idea was to do something where you're like, damn, I can't believe I did that, you know. In order to impress yourself, what I believe is you have to tap into your higher power, okay? And so what that means is anything that you do that you already know you're capable of is not impressive, right? The first day your kid makes an A on their spelling test, that's impressive. But the 20th time they make an A on a spelling test, it's expected. It's not impressive, right? It's kind of the way the word works. The first time you do a backflip, that's pretty impressive. The 50th time you do a backflip, it's kind of the way it is, right? So if you try to impress yourself, that means you have to do something above and beyond what you think you're capable of, or what you know you're capable of. And in order to do that, we have to tap into something that's beyond ourselves. This is just like logic, right? If I'm gonna run my 5K a minute faster than I've ever run it before, I'm gonna have to dig into somewhere, someplace that I've never been before. Something that is beyond my current understanding of my capability, all right? It's that simple, you know? And what I'm trying to give you is a starting place to believe in the existence of a higher power. The first time somebody asks you a question, and instead of lying, like you always do, you tell the truth, you tapped into something. Whether it was belief in the group, faith that they told you that if you stop lying, shit will get better eventually. Something, but it's something bigger than what you've been able to do up until now. That's simple. That's easy to grab a hold of. That's easy to believe in. That's easy to understand. And that's a starting point. And the book tells me that's all I need is a starting point. I just need to get my toe in the door. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys' toe in the door. So today's workout, when you guys discuss this, you'll have an opportunity to talk about some instances in your life where you experience this stuff. But in the workout, that's what I want you to do. I want you to push yourself to where everything in you says, there's no way I can do the rest, or I'm gonna have to slow down, and then see if you can push a little bit further. I wanna to see. Like I told my guy the other day, one of my coaches, try and kill yourself. He's finishing up a workout and like, try to kill yourself. I bet it doesn't work. I bet you can't do it. So what I want you to do, I don't want you to try and kill yourself, but I'm saying, if you just push a little bit past that limit, I bet what everything in you, that reptile brain is telling you, don't do that, you're gonna die. I bet you don't. Push a little bit further, tap into that